Voice of the People podcast. I'm your host, Lawrence Dixon. And as always, I appreciate the fact that folks take the time out of their busy day to listen. I don't take that lightly. This is basically me rambling, venting. I have been bothered all morning since I saw this story about Cornelius Fredericks. I know that that's a very graphic picture, but people need to see that. This young man was in a state facility. He wasn't there because he was a troubled youth, because he was a juvenile that had gotten in trouble with the law or anything like that. He was there because his father was deemed to be unfit to take care of him. And he's taken to a state facility where he loses his life, where he's murdered for throwing a sandwich. I hope everyone goes and looks at that video. It's right up there with some of the most disgusting things that I've ever seen before in my entire life. The young man, it's not like he threw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball at someone's head. He tossed a sandwich maybe 3 or 4 feet. And the only method to correct him or to talk to him or to deal with him was to restrain him for 12 minutes. The video, of course, there's no sound. The video has been altered, which to me is a basic admission of guilt. Why do we have a streaming security video, but yet you can clearly see that it's been edited? You know, I'm bothered by this. One of the things that I'm angry about is you have white people and you have black people who seem to think that African Americans don't have a target on their backs. Racism is learned behavior. It's something that is probably instilled in people as they are kids. And when you have racist learned behavior of one race over another race, it's often fueled with anger, not respecting those individuals, not respecting their lives, their well-being. There's no way that you can train a racist to be able to have restraint when it comes to them physically trying to restrain someone or to bring order to a situation. That learned behavior is going to always come forward because they're going to take any action, whether it's aggressive, whether it's passive aggressive, or whether you're not doing anything at all. Because they resent you, everything that you do is going to be a problem. You know, this is why I don't like when I hear people saying, well, the police officers need more training. Training has nothing whatsoever to do with their learned behavior. The only way a racist is going to change is if they identify their behavior and they take steps to change it themselves. There is no corrective measure to change that learned behavior. And officers have shown that they can have compassion and that they can have restraint. They've shown this time and time again. Also, back to my point of us having a target on our backs, I haven't seen in the news where white people are being pulled over for speeding or for suspicious behavior, and suspicion is neither a felony nor misdemeanor, and they wind up dead. These are African Americans that are dying. Now, back to my point of the issue of restraint. Because of the learned behavior of racism, law enforcement officers and private citizens who are racist, they deal with black people and people of other races, cultures, or whatever the case may be that they don't like. They deal with them differently than how they deal with their own. Matthew Bernard. This dude murdered his mother, his sister, and his 1-year-old nephew. He's outside, butt ball naked. There's a policeman on the scene. He is chasing the police officer. The police officer is retreating, running from him, running from this murderer. He eventually maces Matthew Bernard. Matthew Bernard runs away. There's an older gentleman by a truck. He jumps on him. He's choking him. The officer comes over there and had an opportunity right there that he probably could have grabbed him, but he didn't. Bernard runs away again. And when I say run, let me, he's jogging. I can't make this up. You Google it. Look at the video. Matthew Bernard. He's jogging. Okay. This officer has not drawn his weapon. Nothing. This is a murderer. This isn't someone who got pulled over for speeding. This isn't someone who was asleep in their home while a no-knock warrant was being served. So this dude eventually runs down the street into a barricade, and the police dog came out, nipped him on the leg, and let him go. I've seen these dogs locked on the legs of African American men who are already being restrained by 3 or 4 officers on the ground while handcuffed. And the trainers are giving the release command to the dog, and the dog isn't even letting go. If you think I'm making this up, I'm telling you, look at the video. The guy runs into the woods. They cuff him up. There wasn't no long drawn out process where he's on the ground. They covered him up, put him in a squad car. Then you have Dylan Roof. This dude murdered 9 people. And it wasn't like there was a possibility that he didn't do it. I understand that policemen are not judge and jury. I understand that. But there was no mistaking that this guy was a murderer. Those policemen that were on that scene, all of them saw those bodies laying in that church. So the first thing that comes to mind when they're after him to apprehend him, to arrest him, after they saw this heinous crime scene that he left, is that when they finally caught up to his car and found him, they holstered their weapons. This is a guy who's wanted for murder, and they holstered their weapons. But yet black people are getting pulled over for minor traffic violations, and officers are coming up to the car, guns blazing. And then they take this dude to the station and they bring him something to eat. They bring him something to eat. I read an article about that they were saying that they had to do that because he asked for food and they didn't want to violate his rights. Wow. But what about the rights of our brothers and sisters who are being murdered in the street? Cornelius Fredericks, 16 years old. He tossed a sandwich. They didn't try to talk to him. There was nothing to de-escalate because the boy didn't show any movements, any behavior, anything that rendered him being a threat. But it's because they deal with us differently. White people deal with us differently. Those who are racist. And again, it is because of a learned behavior that they have. There is a narrative in their mind that the life of an African American means absolutely nothing. And in the midst of all this nonsense, 16-year-old kid is dead. Our NBA players, NFL players, baseball players, they're out here resuming their sports. Some are going to wear slogans that promote racial equality. The NFL is talking about playing the Negro national anthem. They changed the marketing, brand marketing of Aunt Jemima syrup and Uncle Ben's rice. You know, they're talking about defunding the police, yet no one's talking about getting rid of qualified immunity. That's not even the conversation. We're getting all this symbolism, and yet nothing whatsoever has changed. We've marched, we've complained, but nothing is changing. I say to that, we still have not yet come together as a people in the midst of everything that's going on. I honestly don't know what more can happen. When are we going to wake up and see that together we have the power to be able to make change? African Americans spend more money in the U.S. economy than any other race. One boycott can shut down the economic system of the United States of America. If the athletes decided that they didn't want to play, and if we redirected our black dollars into black-owned companies, people will go out of their way to initiate legislation to make the necessary corrections that we need. All this talk of defunding the police, I agree with that. I do think that police should not continue to be dispatched on nonviolent calls. But if you just do two things, if you just do two simple things, you don't even got to go down the route of defunding the police. Number one, abolish qualified immunity. Number two, hold them accountable for what they do. You start sending these cats to prison, giving them real time, and you sentence them the same way you would sentence a regular civilian, it'll change a lot of negative behavior. Learned behavior or not, you got bills to pay, and you'll think twice about not restraining that learned behavior, that hate that you have for other races. Again, as I said, I'm upset. I'm hurt. I have a 16-year-old daughter. Cornelius Fredericks is not going to see his next birthday. He's not going to see Christmas. We're not going to see Thanksgiving. And I don't say that in the sense that those holidays are just something to be celebrated or whatever the case may be. I just say that in the sense that those are dates, those are marks on the calendar that he's not going to be able to experience. He is dead. He is gone. He is no longer with us. Because 6 men could not control themselves in trying to restrain a 16-year-old boy who he threw a sandwich. As always, thank you for listening. I appreciate everyone listening to me vent. Until next time, Voice of the People, Lawrence Dixon. You guys be safe. Be safe. That's all I can say. Be safe. I'm out.